Okay, they just did it. Turn it on, the feed. Hold on. He turned it back off. He was too quick.
No, he just did go live.
Hey, can you hear me, Slater? Well, please check that you can hear me through the system. He can see the thing, but we weren't talking, so he was like...
Pause that and then let him talk. Kim, can you talk?
Good morning.
Slater? Sound system in the little theater's not on. Slater forgot his stuff. Because he's teaching class. Yeah. He's teaching a class. It's not his fault. It's my fault.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be there and here at the same time.
Well, I don't know why you're not.
I apologize. I'm trying to lose the weight, but, you know.
Come on, I thought you were magic.
Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it. Is it on? They'll be on microphones at the front of the room. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello, hello, hello? Hold on, there's like a 30-second delay. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello? Can you hear me? You can hear me? You heard it? It says you're broadcasting. So. And the volume is up on the wall? You know, in the system?
Check.
He's just doing it again. There's like a 30-second delay. And then I get it. I'm trying to think of the things. The volume on your laptop is up. Okay, I'm just thinking. And you guys are, there's no volume in yours, right? Like, I understand registering. Okay, so it's working. So it's just, okay, so, yeah, they're not talking. If you're, yeah. Yeah. Testing, testing. Welcome. Please sit in the front. Please fill in all the chairs. Hello, hello. Testing. Testing. What? Hello? Yep. Yep. Well, there's like a 30-second delay, so you're hearing me talk on the phone, but it's going to take a little while to get to you. Okay? I'm on the microphone now. Testing, 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 testing. Like I said, there's a delay. I'm just testing, 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 testing. Hello. Hi. How are you? How are you? Okay. It took a while for you to hear the snapping, so 30 seconds is a long time. Testing, testing, testing. Hello. Welcome. Come on in. Please move to the front of the theater. Fill in. You're going to fill in every single chair. So if there's an empty chair next to you, please fill it in. Move over to the middle, please. Yes, I'm talking to you. Fill in all the chairs. Testing, testing.
Hi, videos.
Underneath her, there's a cable. Can you plug in for the that XLR camera? I'm gonna go up there, broadcast, see if we can.
Please fill in every seat all the way in front.
That maneuver. What number do you guys plug in?
Oh my God.
All right, you should be here. Please come in. Just so you fill in every seat all the way to the front.
That would work. Because I know you're actually just be like, well, let's take it all off now.
Please fill in every seat.
Whoa, that was not
I just do like,
So would I ask you to plug in? Oh, both are in. Oh, okay, so it wouldn't matter? So and you're still hearing this, right? See, he heard me going like this. He's not getting.
What do you mean today?
Yeah, my mom was probably back there.
He didn't start.
It's literally here. Where was she yesterday? She was scared. She was done.
assemblies are also supported by the Wilton Youth Council, and actually some of the proceeds from the county's dance that many of you attended, so we're very grateful to Wilton Youth Council. Rob will talk today about his initiative Shoulder Check, which is dedicated to bringing students together through kindness and compassion and to inspire a culture of support through small actions that have a big impact. Rob will be introducing this concept of shoulder check, which encourages young people to be there for their peers through action-oriented initiatives that foster social connectedness, which is always something we're working on here at Wilton High School. So students, this message is simple, yet so important. Reach out, check in, and make contact with those around you to make sure that everybody in our school is doing okay. Rob, as I told you, as a cell phone-free high school, we should not see a single cell phone here, and you will have the undivided attention and interest of our students. I'm very proud of our students, and they're always really, really grateful for guests that come in and appreciative. So Rob, thank you for being here today, for dedicating your work to helping young people, and for bringing shoulder check to our students. Please give it up for Rob Thorson.
Everybody for being here. Appreciate it. Quick show of hands. Anybody heard of this program before? Anybody heard of shoulder check? Couple? Yell it out? All right, good. So I'll start from the beginning. So let's get into this. Let me first tell you, here's what I'm here to do today. I'm not here to tell you a story. Okay? Because a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Don't get me wrong. There's enormous power in story, right? You probably hear stories in class all the time. Stories convey history, moral lessons, great works of literature or art, right? But invariably, they tend to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Someone tells you a story. By point of contrast, I'm here to share an idea with you. And an idea works very differently, right? You guys have ideas all the time. An idea has a beginning, and then it evolves. An idea comes from somewhere, right? Whether it's in class, education, or some research that you're doing, or even just a moment of quiet when something occurs to you, right? Like it's this flash, this moment of inspiration. But once it exists, the point of an idea is to share it. And once you share it, everybody brings their ideas to it, and so it evolves, right? So you tell someone a story, but you share an idea. And I'm just here today to share our idea with you. Like I'm just a guy with an idea. I'm not an educator like everybody in this room. I'm not a mental health practitioner or professional. I'm actually an ad guy. And we had an idea that came from a point of inspiration that was inspired by someone very special to me. And now we're putting that idea out in the world, and I think it's a pretty good idea. And I don't say that because like I'm boastful or anything like that. But we put this idea out there in the world, and I'm seeing it evolve in interesting ways. And not by my hand, but by the hands of the people that have seen this idea. People who've been touched by this idea and been inspired themselves. And that's in large part what I hope will happen here today with all of us, is that some of you might see something in it and find yourselves inspired to carry it forward in a new or a different or an interesting way. And I know some of you, specifically the hockey team, I know you guys have seen it, participated in it as well. I'm really grateful for that. But anyway, that's what I want to share. And let's see who it resonates with. So that's it. I'm here to share this idea with you. And like I said, I'm here to ask for you to help me evolve it. I mean, there's 900 people in this room, 300 people in the other room. There's 1,200 of us here. Could you imagine the power to evolve an idea? If even we only had one idea, let alone 1,200 ideas. You know what I'm saying? So let's see what happens here. We're not going to solve it today, but this is the start of the journey. So now, let me get into it. Let me share a little bit more of what this is all about. So these are things that I'm sure you either experience directly yourselves, or you know, or you'll connect to, or you'll understand. But we say now, like, we're in this world that's hyper-connected, right? We've got phones, we've got laptops, we've got all sorts of tech, we've got AI emerging, all these things that are happening. We're more connected than ever, but for some reason, like it's proven, it's been researched, that we're feeling more isolated than ever. The Surgeon General 2 me in the room with you, but your age, are dealing with a crisis of loneliness and disconnection, right? The more connected we are digitally, the more disconnected we're feeling. So we're suffering this crisis of social connection and loneliness. And in that context, also proven, between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 people, this is adults and youth, are going to experience some form of a mental health crisis in the coming year. And crisis is a big word, right? So let's just say need mental health support. And that's cool, because we all go through it. But everybody's sitting in the seat here, or even for folks standing, look at yourself, look to your left, look to your right. That's 3 people. Someone's going to need a hand. And the thing that goes with that, or in that context, is 3 out of 4 people say when they're in these moments of need, they feel like they don't have someone to go to, which is also kind of strange, right? We're more connected than ever. We feel more disconnected than ever. So 3 out of 4 people feel like they don't have someone to go to when they're in a moment of need. But this is where there's hope, and there's big hope, because almost everyone will accept support from a peer. Like you'll take help from a friend, that's what that means. And being there for someone can be as simple, literally, as a hand on the shoulder. This is the shoulder check, right? Literally, a hand on the shoulder. And that's where every one of us comes in. That's the point of this program. We're enlisting everybody into this context. So today, here's what's going on. And these are little screen grabs, I think, from New York Times Magazine. They came out like within 3 or 4 months of one another. But this is the dynamic that's happening. We're suffering this crisis of connection, where the simplest of gestures can make the biggest difference. Like that's proven, right? Little things make a big difference. But because they're small, they often go undone. Like we think, like, oh, that's a little thing, oh man, it's not going to make a difference, so I'm not going to do that. That's kind of the dynamic that's happening in the world. That's the narrative, and we can change the narrative, and that's what this idea is meant to do. So that's why, in honor of my son, Hayden Thorson, who died by suicide in May of 2022, we founded the HT40 Foundation in his honor with a single mission, and that was to create ways for people to connect, support, and be there for one another. Literally, just be there for one another. When AIDS passed, a lot of people said, who's going to do what AIDS did for us now that he's gone? And it took me a minute to understand what it was that he did. And what he did was simply put his hand on people's shoulder. He was there for people. He was empathetic and aware of people, just like I'm sure so many people in this room are. But that's something we don't often talk about and recognize, right? We recognize other skills. Who's the funniest person? Who's the loudest person? Who's the best athlete, fastest, all that kind of stuff. But it's the empathetic person who made the biggest impact on everyone in this person's life. So that's what we're trying to do. Create ways for people to connect, support, and be there for one another. That's what's happening in this photo. So we set out with that, we started, we thought like, okay, let's make kindness a contact sport, right? Let's literally make contact with one another. Like it's not good enough to change the color of your social profile picture and do some armchair activism. Like we gotta get out there and make contact with one another, be there for one another. So our mission is something that's not passive, but it's active. It's about connecting with people. So from there, we came up with the idea of the shoulder checks. Now I got a quick little video I'm gonna play for you. It explains the idea a little better. I skipped it. Let's do it again. So I don't know if you know, but I'm from Darien. We lived in the city, moved up here about 5 years ago. But we made this idea with probably 100 of the kids at Darien High School. And there are a lot of people people that are in this video, but we also made this video with guys like Trevor Zegras, help from the NHL. This whole thing is like a massive exercise in crowdsourcing. And that's what, again, I'm asking you guys to be a part of. Like, let's see what we can come up with this. Where can we take it next? And if you needed one page, I'm going to come back and touch on a lot of these things again, but if you're sitting around thinking, like, what's this guy on about? And you wanted, like, the one page to remember, this is the one page to remember that I think communicates the idea the best. It's a commitment to shoulder check, to checking in on each other on the daily. And these next 3 points here are probably the most important ones. And the thing I say the most, if anybody asks you what is this all about, this is the thing I'd ask you to say. We might not know who needs a hand, but we all have a hand to give. Don't necessarily know who's struggling, when, where, or even why. And struggling can be little things and big things, right? Like sometimes we're going to be in it, and that's cool. It happens to everybody. Sometimes it could just be a bad day, a bad grade, a breakup, something like that, normal everyday stuff. Or it could be something more serious that you're struggling with. Like we don't always know who needs a hand, but we all have a hand to give. And it's up to all of us to finish this sentence. See it all the time. It's good language, right? So if you think about where we're at, having this conversation about mental health and what we're doing with it, I think about where I was, and everybody's got different experiences, so I know this is going to touch some people. But you take look at how we talk about cancer now, right? Like we stand up to cancer. We celebrate the people who are struggling with it. We got Susan G. Komen, we got November, we got all these amazing organizations, and we're having conversations about this. When I was younger, my cousin had cancer. He survived Hodgkin's disease, came through it, but he had to do it on his own. It wasn't talked about. But then we got language, and we broke down stigmas, and we found ways to talk about this and hero up the people that needed heroing up. And that's the same thing we're doing now at this topic. So we have things like, it's okay to not be okay, and you are not alone. Powerful thoughts, sentiments, language. But ultimately, that language is still speaking to the person who needs a hand. We're still putting the onus on them to raise their hand. That's hard to do. So our idea is to kind of, what we think we're adding to the mix. So shoulder check is saying, you're not alone because I am literally right here beside you. We're going to put all ourselves in the conversation. And the goal there is to make it just a little bit easier for someone who is having a hard time to say, I need help. 3 hardest words to say in any language. I need help. It's hard to do, right? You can relate to that. How many times you're sitting in class and maybe you don't know the answer to a question, you're a little apprehensive to raise your hand because you don't want to look a certain way or you don't want people to think you're not tracking or not following along, right? It's hard to ask for help. We've got to practice that. We've got to learn how to do that, and we can all help each other out through the process. So that's the goal here. That's what we're trying to do. So it's a simple mission. It's a universal idea. Help everyone everywhere. Make contact with one another because you never know when someone might need a hand, but we all have a hand to give. That's the premise. That's what the shoulder check's all about. And this is what it looks like, right? And I chose this picture. So we do this thing every year. We're going to do it again this summer. We have the shoulder check showcase. It takes place in Stanford. We get like 30 NHLers and PWHLers to come out and play a charity hockey game. You guys should all come. But the very first year we did it, we asked everybody to stand up, put their hands on each other's shoulders. And what I like about this picture is it captures the emotion that this idea should bring to everybody, right? Like this isn't sad, this isn't heavy, this is uplifting. This is people lifting other people up. Most of the folks in here, they don't know each other. You got 10 different jerseys, you got all different ages, you got different families, but everybody's smiling, you see the joy. All we did was ask everybody to stand up and put hands on each other's shoulder, and joy came into the room, right? The experience both of giving a hand and receiving a hand is powerful, and it's simple. And a hand on a shoulder can be a lot of things. I know it's not silly, but I do quite mean it literally, like a hand on a shoulder, right? And you can relate to this. We're excited, pat somebody in the back, let's go. That's a hand on a shoulder. You don't have to say a word. Or maybe we're getting ready to go out and do something. It's a performance, it's a game, it's a test, it's whatever. It's a hand on a shoulder. It's like, you got this. It's cool. across college campuses, high school hallways, shared by friends and rivals. We've done a lot with rivals, from peewees to pros, strangers. I showed them that photo, to the folks that we love the most. We've been out working to help make it easier for all of us to literally make contact. That's the goal, make contact. So here's how it looks. Here's how it's going to go.
A shoulder check is a pledge to reach out, check in, and make contact.
More than 10,000 people, including professional hockey players, have joined a very special movement.
Everyone needs a friend in life, and shoulder check reminds people that there are people around you to help you.
Shoulder check is really doing exactly what Peyton did when he was here with us, which is just put hands on people's shoulders.
Checking in can be as simple as sending a text.
The Shoulder Check initiative has already received support from many pro hockey players and is now being adopted by athletes from colleges across the country.
So we made that film last summer, and that was a recap of kind of where we were at that time. And we keep going, we keep stacking new initiatives and activations. And I want to tell you a few of them, a few of the things that we're doing, just like a little bit of inspiration, because I think what we'd like to try and do here is we're going to do one or two things in the room today to kind of get our heads around this, and I think you guys all have like your advisory in 2 weeks or so. It would be cool to come back then and kind of brainstorm, share some ideas, and ask you to think about this. Like, how can this idea benefit you all? How could you bring it to life here at campus? And if we could find a way to doing that, I'd like to invite a couple of you to come to our showcase this summer. So we're again July 24th, where outside the event, we have the hockey game. We're going to have all the folks who have been participating in this idea, sharing it with the 2,000 people that come to the event as more inspiration to keep this thing going forward. So I wanted to share with you a couple of things, or a couple of ways it's coming to life in other places, and then I'm going to give you a couple of rules of the road, because there are only a few rules, but they're good to know. So here's an example. We did a thing, so Freehold, New Jersey, it's like in central New Jersey, if you believe in central New Jersey. People from New Jersey think there's only north and south New Jersey, and this is in the middle. And it was a middle school, and they called up, they reached out to me, and they said, how does this program come to life in a middle school? And I was like, I have no idea. Never thought about that before. So that's what we did. We thought about it. We had an idea. We created this notion of a kindness exchange. So we went down and presented to these kids, about 1,000 of them, 5th through 8th graders, and then we went back to their homerooms. They got homerooms, advisories, whatever. And we asked them, what's the one kindness you'd like to share with the rest of your classmates? And we had every homeroom come up with the sentiment that they wanted to share and color bracelet that they wanted, and then we made them all these bracelets. And you can see them, right? Like, focus on being the best you can. I understand. Kindness is golden. You're never alone. All those kinds of things. They came up with 40 different sentiments. We made these bracelets. And then for the rest of the year, they're exchanging these bracelets with one another at different ages and different classes. And then we're going to go back down there at the end of the year and have a presentation. And we're going to ask them to share their experience with us. We call it the wrist roll. Or maybe you call it your stack, whatever. You're going to have like 10 or 12 of these things on their arm. And every time they're feeling down, they can go. And they can see something amazing that someone said to them. It's nice and it's uplifting, knowing that someone's there for them. So that was an idea, Freehold Middle School, how we did it there. And it was right for them, right? This worked for them. And that's how they wanted to do it, which was cool. I went to Weymouth High School at the beginning of this year. Weymouth is in just south of Boston. We met with all the athletes in the school there. Our school's a bit bigger. I think they have about 2,000 students. So there was about 600 kids there. They were athletes. And went there with my nephew. He's a big guy in the middle. You'll see him in a second. He's done a lot of stuff with the program. We shared the idea, and they made it part of their team culture. Every team in the high school throughout the year made the shoulder check commitment together all season long. And they did it whatever was right way for their team, like whether they, some teams they broke a hug by saying it, or others finished in the locker room by saying it, like I promised to reach out, check in, make contact. They made the shoulder check part of their team culture. And then tomorrow I'm headed back up there because we're going to be speaking at their Massachusetts, like their equivalent of the FCAC. We're going to speak at their conference with the students who did this and share it with all the schools in the FCAC about how this program benefited them as a team. So that's how it came to life at Weymouth High School. I don't know if I mentioned, I think I said I'm from Darien. So Darien did a little bit differently. They have a shoulder check club that they started. So when they had the club fair at the beginning of the year, someone pitched the idea of a shoulder check club alongside everything, all the other clubs that were being pitched. I think they had like 200 kids that signed up, which is awesome. And they realized they wanted to do it a bit differently. Their idea was, our club's sole purpose is to teach everybody else how to be a part of the shoulder check, which I thought was pretty cool. And they realized that they wanted to get the other clubs involved, they wanted to get the other teams involved, they wanted to get the arts involved, right? Because this is not a sports idea, it's an everybody idea. It works just as well for the student council as it does for any team. And they wanted to get everybody to take the pledge. And then they had ways they wanted to do it, and they're working on that. It's working its way through the school. They had one thing that was pretty cool. One day they did an announcement. I don't know if you guys do morning announcements or how that works, but they got on the intercom system, and they had everybody make the shoulder check pledge one morning at school, which I thought was pretty cool. Started an Instagram page, so on and so forth. So that's how it came to life in Darien. Assumption University. So we've got a couple of colleges that are on the case, and that network is steadily growing. Then hopefully, I know seniors in the other room, maybe this idea will strike or connect, and when you're going off to school, or when you guys go off to school in the future, you can bring the idea with you as well. And that's how it's starting to touch college campuses. And what they did is they did again, it was my nephew who kind of, he was the captain of the football team there for a bit. He brought it there, and he gathered all the students season by season. He did it in the fall, he did it in the winter, and then he did it in the spring, got everybody together. They ran their homecoming as a shoulder check event, and every team all season long repped the shoulder check, which was pretty cool. But beyond that, I think you'll hear it in his words. That's Joe.
So what shoulder check means to me is just, being there for each other. Everyone struggles in different ways, and it's been something that's been great within our team. So when I brought the shoulder check initiative to our school, this was something that everyone got behind very quickly, because everyone's had their own experiences in some way, whether that be family, friends, teammates. Everyone knows that this is something that's very important, specifically to our age group and college athletes. So it's important to spread this message, just so you can have someone, because everyone struggles. So it's important to have anyone to talk to.
Sometimes I bring Joe with me, and he kind of presents alongside me as different people have participated in the program. I connect with them. We've got a lot of guys. So my son's a hockey player, so that's kind of his network. Got a lot of guys who are just fifth-year seniors prep school this year, finishing up. So a lot of those guys will come around with me and present, and we go to bigger events too. So let's do this video. We did night with the Boston Bruins, for example, and I'm going to share these cards with you. And it says, I check in with my loved ones because. And everybody came out, we had a table, and everybody filled these cards out, and then they put them up on the Jumbotron and interviewed all the people during the game. It was awesome. And that night, subsequently, I had people reach out to us and shoulder check saying, hey, I saw you at the Bruins game the other night, we'd like to get involved in the program. And that's how we got started at Eastern Washington University and a couple other places, which was great. But here's a totally different way to participate, and this is an exercise we're going to do in here in a second. But just getting people engaged in the dialogue, right? Getting conversations started. We can all give a shoulder check because we could all use a hand every once in a while. Again, I'll repeat it, right? It's a simple idea, it's an important topic, and everyone can play a role. And I mentioned these before, but if you needed okay, so where does this whole thing go? What's the end game for this? I offer you these 2 points of reference, right? Everybody knows Susan G. Komen, and everybody sees the world. But for the last little while, right, been out 20, 30 years, the world turns pink in October. But now that pink is omnipresent. Like I was having a meeting yesterday. There was a cafe near on Darien. Giant dump truck, because you know they're rebuilding the whole downtown. The giant dump truck drove by, massive pink ribbon on the side of it. I was like, man, what an amazingly powerful reminder of what we're trying to do here. Or now we got Movember, right? So you got Susan G. Komen on the case for women's health issues and initiatives, and then Movember follows suit. A couple guys in Australia about 10 or 15 years ago had this idea of like growing mustaches in November to raise awareness for men's health issues and initiatives. And now we see in November this kind of purple, I guess purple, Latin or whatever, turns up everywhere, right? And that's where we see like I Stand Up to Cancer. It's a big thing in the NHL. Hockey fights cancer and that kind of stuff. So I see no reason why couldn't September be this shade of blue that we're putting it out there? And why can't everybody rep it with blue laces or with blue hockey tape or other ways to do it, or stickers on doors to let people know, like, hey, we're on board with this. We believe in these principles or values. We're here for conversations and we're here to support one another. So that's kind of like the end goal. That's what I kind of made this chart. I made this chart with these collages, whatever it was, probably 3 years ago when I was thinking about, like, what could this be? Or maybe you might not remember this. Back in the day, we had these little yellow bracelets. They were Livestrong. I was going to bring you guys these. I don't think I had enough. But, like, just these kind of, like, little bracelets everybody wears, right? Anyway, remember we talked about this before. The 3 hardest words to say in any language: I need help, right? So I'm just kind of recap this again for you. It's hard to say, it's hard to ask for help. It requires vulnerability. Vulnerability is not easy, right? Especially not now at this stage in your lives. Like, it's not easy to let your guard down. It's not easy for me to let my guard down. I never thought in a million years I would be standing up here talking to you guys about something like this. It's an exercise for me in letting my own guard down to share what's going on and how we got here. But ultimately, we're trying to build and reinforce a culture that allows people to allow themselves to be vulnerable by making them feel less vulnerable. Now, I know that sounds kind of silly. It's a bit of a circular argument, right? But that's just it. Like, how are we going to help people feel less vulnerable? Well, we're going to just make them feel less vulnerable. Like, sometimes things aren't as hard as they sound. So we're going to practice this now. We're going to try this. I'm going to say something. You're going to repeat after me. So everybody's got to do this now. Because I think what we need to do, like, we've all got this role, right? We've got to roll in all this together. We're all, look, honestly, like, we're all going through the same shit, right? Same things you're going through, I'm going through, the person next to you is going through. We've got to remind ourselves about that. We've got to practice these things. Just like we learn anything else, or we train anything else, whether it's mental muscle memory or physical muscle memory, right? How about emotional muscle memory? So repeat after me, right? So you got to say these things. So say, you're not alone. Because I'm right here with you. Okay, let's do it. A little louder. Let's try this again. You're not alone. Because I'm right here with you. Yeah, that was good. Now think about it, right? Like, we've got to say these things out loud. Because we've got to experience them. So that's another step we'll say. This time, like, don't say it to me. Say it to the room. Say it to the people that you're with. Sometimes I can use a hand. That was good. And I always have a hand to give. Okay, one more. Try it again. Sometimes I can use a hand. Yeah. And I always have a hand to give. Yeah. Like, you gotta practice it. Like, we gotta practice asking for help. We gotta practice offering help. We gotta practice being there for one another. For some people, it comes naturally. And you know this, right? You got friends who are wired empathetically, people who are checking in on you, and others who might be a little more stoic. Everybody needs to be checked in on. So thank you for doing that. So there's only a few rules to this, right? So kind of give you this, so hopefully it's something we can put into practice for ourselves. And there's only a few rules. And obviously the good stuff's on the far side, the less good stuff's on the side near to me, right? But like, you get a feel for this, right? So this idea is active, it's not passive. You gotta do something, you gotta be in it. It's intentional, it's gotta be intentional. Nobody does things out of obligation, right? Obligation, you do it once, you move on. It's gotta be intentional. You gotta be the presence of a positive to do this, not the absence of a negative, right? It's not enough to, like, not be the person doing the bad thing. like, oh, it wasn't me, it was somebody else. Right? You got to do the good thing. And I think the most important thing are these last two things on here, and this means a lot to me. Because when we're doing the stuff like being active intentional, with the presence of a positive, we're mindful, we're looking after one another. Like, look, bottom line is things aren't always going to work out. We're going to run into trouble. We're going to struggle. We're going to get things wrong here and there. Like, that's normal. But when we're doing the best we can, we're learning from those things. It's when we're not leaned in. It's when we're not thinking of ourselves. When we're not thinking of other people. That's when regret creeps in. And regret's no good, man. That's heavy. You're going to carry regret. You don't want to carry that. Like when we're doing the right thing, we can reflect on our lessons and learn from them. When we're not doing the right thing, we're left with regret. We know we could have done better. We should have done better. We had an opportunity to do better. Because I think this is what it comes down to. Like the real truth about it is no one gets it right. Like we don't get it right, and that's cool. All our lives we're not going to get it right the whole time. The real truth about it is we're all supposed to try. That's what the shoulder check's all about. Just being there for one another. Trying for one another. That's from the song. Pretty sad song. Don't listen to it. So now we got these things here. And we're going to break these out. We're going to hand these things out. And we're going to fill these in. So the little placards, and I showed them to you before. We did it with the Boston Bruins. We're going to pass them out. I'll take a second. I'll keep talking while we do this. It says, I check in on my loved ones because this is another exercise in us practicing empathy. Right? Practicing awareness of one another. So everybody's going to fill out one of these. You don't have to put your name on or anything like that. Pass out pens. I know you got your bags and stuff like that, so break out the pen if you have one. And it doesn't have to be too hard. First thing that comes to mind. So I'll give you a minute on this.
Can you pass these to your left, please? Oh wait, no, don't do that. I think some are coming your way. How about... Here's a marker for you guys. Thank you.
I checked in on my loved ones because I love them. What? That's like the whole point of it. Because...
Think about this. We'll see what we're going to do with these cards. But what if we had a display of 1,200 of them? Everybody got them? Anybody need one? Raise your hand if you need one. Everybody got a card? All right, everybody filling them in? You guys good? Okay. Okay, come back to me now if you could. Heads up. Heads up, everybody. Back up here. Good job. Cards in the back. You good? Nice work. Everybody hold them up. Did you do it? Hold them up. Hold them up. All right, awesome. All right, so here, now I need somebody who's going to be brave and yell out. Let me hear one or two. Somebody yell it out. All right, he's good. Nice. Let's yell them out. All right, next time we'll orchestrate this a little different. All right. Okay, so back to me. I'm going to finish up for you now. Come back to me here. So we're going to collect these cards somehow, a little bit later. But the whole point of this exercise, like I said before, is we got to practice this stuff. Right? We got to be comfortable with this kind of language and this kind of conversation. You guys got me? Everybody back? So we're practicing this, like I said. And imagine we put up a display with these things. We find a wall, we get 1,200 of these placards up on a wall, and every day you can walk by and see 1,200 different kind thoughts coming at you to let you know that everybody here in this school and in this building is there for you. So I talked to you in the beginning about this, right? This is the dynamic that's going on today. With me? Everybody with me? So this dynamic where people are feeling alone, and simple gestures can make a big difference, but we don't do them because we underestimate their value. Hopefully we're demonstrating the value and the power of these small gestures, and together, collectively, we can change the narrative that's going on here by going from this world where people are feeling alone to where we're working to help people feel less alone by actively making these smallest of gestures, because we understand the incredible impact small actions can have. And if you don't believe me, I got this other example here, right? This is silly. Everybody know what Elmo is? The red dude, right? So this was a year ago. It happened almost exactly a year ago. And I think it was pretty incredible. This happened the night before I gave a presentation like this. Elmo got a pretty prolific social media following. Elmo made a post that Elmo's checking in. How's everybody doing? Innocuous enough, simple, right? Got 80,000 replies of people actually sharing how they were doing. People actively asking for help. People actively saying, and the internet got hold of it, made it a joke, said people were trauma dumping on Elmo. It was like, we've been through a lot lately, and that was cool. But up to and including the then President Joe Biden made a post about it in earnest. Even though it's hard, you're never alone. Elmo, a red puppet, asked people how they were doing, and 80,000 people came out and told him. And my point about this is, just like we did with these cards, just like we did with that call and repeat before, all we gotta do is give people permission to participate in this conversation. You ask someone how they're doing, be there for the answer, right? Like people will step into that space. This is the space we're talking about. This is the feeling we're going to kind of follow through with. And like I said, hopefully we'll pick this up in your advisories in 2 weeks and talk more about it and think how this idea can come to life here in your school. So we're going to finish now. I'm going to ask you if you're in. We're going to start this all together. We've got one last exercise. So everybody stand up now. Everybody stand up. You don't have to go anywhere.
Oh, I'm in. Did we get a free t-shirt from this?
Now you got to put your hand on the shoulder of the person next to you. You got this?
This brings this thing on.
Okay, so listen to me. You got to repeat after me one last time. I promise to reach out, check in, make contact. You got to do it twice always. So I promise to reach out, check in, make contact. That's it. That's simple. Thank you, everybody.
That's what he's doing.
You got ideas, you want to reach out to me, that's the website, Instagram, email. Let me know what you think. Hold on, I don't know if I'm dismissing everybody. Hold on a second. Somebody's in charge here. It's not me. So before we go, please give a round of applause to Rob Thorson for his presentation today. He is dedicating his very existence to helping you here today and students and young people literally across the states and beyond, as you saw internationally. Students, we believe in you. We know this is an extremely caring, supportive community. Again, the message is simple. Just make sure you're checking in with people. And let's do the right thing, whether people are watching or whether they are not.
You are wonderful young people who are literally going to change the world, and we appreciate that. Give yourselves a round of applause. You know that we have a saying in the Wilton Public Schools, the ultimate goal, for a better world. And Rob, you were part of that today. We can't thank you enough. Awesome message. So please, in an orderly way, make sure we collect all of the pledges. People are by the exits to collect them.